As we observe a mid-sagittal view of the brain, one of the more prominent features that we can see is this structure right here. It's called the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is a fiber tract, major fiber tract that connects the right and left cerebral hemispheres to each other. Most anterior or rostrally, this portion here is aptly named the rostrum. Then, as it makes a bend right here, this is referred to as the genu, G-E-N-U. Think genuflect means knee, so it's like the knee bend of the corpus callosum. As we come up over here, we're at the body of the corpus callosum, and then the most posterior region is referred to as the splenium. So the corpus callosum has a rostrum, a genu, a body, and a splenium. Superior to the corpus callosum, we see a major gyrus. This gyrus right here is referred to as the cingulate gyrus. So all this right in here. And it is part of the limbic system, which we will talk about more later. You can make out a groove that is superior to the cingulate gyrus here, right in there. That's called the cingulate sulcus. And notice what happens when we get over here more posteriorly. If we follow the cingulate sulcus, suddenly it makes a bend and it goes towards the apex or the top of the brain. This sulcus here is referred to as the marginal sulcus. So cingulate sulcus to marginal sulcus. Now the marginal sulcus, if we look anterior to the marginal sulcus, what we see is what's referred to as a paracentral lobule. The paracentral lobule composes the parts of both pre- and post-central gyri that dip down into the longitudinal fissure. So if I rotate this, turn 80 degrees, so I'm looking at the paracentral lobule here. If I look like so, I can suddenly see there's the central sulcus, here's the precentral gyrus, here's the postcentral gyrus. So we would have to draw kind of an imaginary line through the paracentral lobule to divide somatic motor cortex from somatic sensory cortex, but roughly that line's going to be right here. Now remember, precentral is part of the frontal lobes and is involved with somatic motor. Specifically in here is the region represented by the leg and the foot. Just posterior to that is the part of the primary somatosensory cortex that again, this is part of the parietal lobe and it represents the the lower limb and the foot as well there. So primary motor, primary somatosensory. What we're looking at as we go anterior to that paracentral lobule is that superior frontal gyrus that we saw in a different view there. In this view, we can more clearly see the division between parietal lobe and occipital lobe. We see a sulcus right there that very clearly separates the two from each other. So parietal lobe here, occipital lobe here. This is the parieto-occipital sulcus. If we next look at the occipital lobe, we can see the parieto-occipital sulcus, and then we can see two major gyri with a sulcus in between the two. This sulcus right here is called the calcarine sulcus, and the gyrus that is immediately inferior to it apparently resembled a tongue to early anatomists because this is called the lingual gyrus. Superior to the calcarine sulcus, we have the cuneate gyrus. The cuneate gyrus refers to the fact that it looks like a wedge right there. Now remember that the occipital lobe's major function is vision. So damage to the occipital lobes is going to affect a person's vision.